Hello. Some terrible, terrible news. It was going to happen eventually. I had some footage get corrupted. So this entire session doesn't have any visuals. It won't have any roleplay clips, and it's really annoyed me because this was such a good session, and it would have been great for you guys to see it. However, there's not much I can do. The footage has been corrupted. It's gone. So I guess I'm just going to try and talk you through what happened as best I can. I guess we'll just get straight into it. The first thing they did was move in to kill, fucking hell, not kill, save Lily. Having just defeated Voluk, searched the room, etc., they moved in to save Lily. She is, of course, bound to this table by four bindings on her wrists and ankles, and she has this beam of horrific negative energy siphoning her soul out of her. So as soon as the characters went in to try and rescue her by picking the locks, they just got extremely hurt and also failed the roll. This gave them pause, as well as triggering the will-o-wisp that was in the room, feeding from her fear. The will-o-wisp was a little bit of an annoying fight. Its at-will invisibility made it a bit of a challenge for the first few rounds. It would shock one of them, go invisible, and then move. The hero spent multiple rounds searching using the seek action, and one of them would maybe get successful every once in a while, but it went very slow progress for them. So eventually I decided to mix up the tactics for their benefit and also to make the fight more interesting. So instead of doing these hit and run tactics where it would shock, go invisible, hide, it decided to go all in on a few of the heroes, shocking Orn effects a lot to bring her down to 0 hit points, and then began to eat that fear and heal itself by doing so. So that changed the dynamic of the fight. It wasn't optimum. I could have just kept going invisible. Eventually, I would have worn them down, but that is very boring and would have taken a long time, so I decided not to do that. Having it eat Orn effects' fear once she went down was really fun. It made the characters panic a little bit and go straight to getting her up and killing it as quickly as possible. Ridiculously high AC though, 27 on a Will-O-Wisp. I was not expecting that. That's really high. After the fight, they discussed using the Force Open action to try and smash these manacles open, as well as they wanted to attack the manacles, but the manacles don't really have any stats that I can find. Like, I know a lot of the environmental stuff, like doors and stuff, has hit points and hardness and etc., but the manacles didn't, so I wasn't sure if that was available. But luckily, one of the heroes did end up going back into Voluk's chamber, searching and finding the key, and they used that to open it. It did hurt them. They did take the negative energy damage, but it was survivable. May did two of them, passed the key to Milo, then he did the other two, and everybody stayed healthy and got her out pretty quickly. Once they did free her, she rolled off the table and dragged herself free of the light and lied there, breathing heavily for a few moments. One effects rushed over and began treating people, healing Lily and the party after that fight. Lily was obviously very confused at what had happened, so she asked, where did you guys come from? And the party explained that they'd come for her specifically, because obviously this is Rock's NPC. They knew about her. So there, they said, we've come to save you on Rock's behalf. Lily hadn't seen Rock in a very long time, so this gave Lily a bit of hope that she might see him again. And the party did not say that he was dead at this point. I understand their thinking. They didn't want to tell her while she's just got out of this terrible ordeal. They're in the dungeon. It wasn't the best time for it. So they escorted her out and took her to the druids, where the druids healed her up for a few hours, and then she came back and she sat and talked with them. This was some really good role play in which the characters explained what had happened and asked her how she had ended up there. So she explained the series of events where someone had tried to kill her, they had been unsuccessful, they had taken her body, shipped her to Atari. She had been kept by someone named Shad Nunda in the Thieves Guild for a while, then she escaped, ran into the gauntlet not knowing what it was, and got herself captured by Voluk instead. She'd actually been in captivity for about half a year at this point, across Shad and then Voluk. But obviously, the conversation did turn to Rock, and the group had to explain that Rock had died trying to save her. It was the urgency of wanting to get her out that had caused a bit of recklessness and had resulted in Rock's death. They made sure not to refer to it as a sacrifice because they didn't think it was a sacrifice, just that he was desperate to save her and hopefully that meant something. But they did take her to the graveyard where she said a quiet goodbye. She sort of knelt by his grave talking to him quietly, while the party stood back and watched. Once she was done, they gave her the lockpicks that belonged to Rock and had previously belonged to her. While she'd been quite solemn but kept it together, this did get a few tears out of her. And then she tried to ask for directions back to Absalom. She didn't know really where she was. She didn't know anyone in Atari. She hadn't actually been into Atari properly. She'd been smuggled into the town and then kept it underground. But the party were very adamant that we can't let this barely alive woman go marching for a week back to Absalom on her own. So they gave her some money, gave her a weapon, and then pointed her down to the Rowdy Rockfish as a place to stay. Next, they decided to go to Rin and explain what had happened. Rin obviously was waiting eagerly to see if the party came back safely, and she was very relieved when they all walked through the door alive and well. They explained what they had found with Voluk and how they had freed Lily, and that had disabled the light of the Gauntlet. This led to a few theories as to how the Gauntlet is going to act now. Is it going to disperse that energy? Or is that light at the top of the lighthouse holding it, and it's only going to take a little bit more soul energy to blast out another beam? They also discussed whether Voluk had survived because some maggots had got away, and they also discuss whether Belcora was alive. They're pretty convinced at this point that Belcora is alive. It makes sense. People are referring to her directly now, as Voluk did have that speech about how you're directly impacting her work. I used this as an opportunity to ask the party what they were going to do next via Rin. This was kind of a closing chapter on these first 3 floors, the first main boss they'd killed. But they basically said, let's just keep going. We're going to go clear this new floor, see what we find, and see if Voluk comes back. They nearly ended up going back to the Gauntlet today, as it was only midday at this point, but they ended up deciding not to do that. Instead, putting some runes into their items. So Gorgon is going to get a striking rune, and Ornifex is going to put the slick rune they found a very long time ago in her armor. Since they had some time, Ornifex asked the group to go to the crow's cask with her. And finally, at long last, she told the group about the visions she's been having. I'm glad she finally brought this to the group, because this means that it can be progressed as a whole now, and people can work together to push forward for this goal. But she basically explained how she'd had visions from Yog Sothoth telling her she needs to kill the servant of the empty death, which they now know is Nimbaloth. There was actually, though, a little bit of a miscommunication, I think, because during this conversation, she explained how if she's not quick enough, Yog Sothoth is going to send a Neolithid to do the job for her. That wasn't ever what I was trying to get across. I was trying to threaten that her old master from her backstory is going to come in her place, which would probably result in his death, and that's the sense of urgency. However, the idea of having a Neothelid appear in Atari on its way to destroy the Gauntlet would be one hell of a climactic scene, so maybe I'll put that in my back pocket. The group were pretty supportive of Ornifex, although there was a bit of a pushback on having a new time-sensitive thing going on. They aren't really fans of limited time. Despite it being one of the most prominent forms of motivation and moving a story along. Still, I was very happy that she'd brought this to the group, and I hope that this means they put a bit of proactive thought into dealing with this. Before the night was over, May decided to go speak to Mitsuyo about the one-shot dream that she had many sessions ago. I guess good to get to it eventually. I think what triggered this was the fact that she started using her shielded arm focus spell that she got from that one shot, and that's now made her want to talk to her relative ancestor about how she picked that up. So she explained that she had a dream that was seemingly one of Mitsuyo's memories, and that she had learnt techniques through having that dream. Interestingly, May seemed a little perturbed by the idea of learning through the dreams. Instead of embracing it and just being like, cool, that's great that I get to learn these new techniques, she felt like it was cheating. Mitsuyo didn't really agree, because in Mitsuyo's opinion, May has lacked the training that she should have had because of her parents being farmers now. So Mitsuyo was very much of the opinion that you need to learn these things, and if you're learning them through my memories, then that's good enough. May did flick through the diary, and the dream sequence that she had lived through was now readable in the diary. So she went through and they discussed it, and Mitsuyo now remembered it. May did ask if she could remember anything new, and I didn't want to give away what the next dream would be, but I did tease that it involves scaling a large mountain. As a new day arrived, the group decided to go back to the Gauntlet, but they didn't go straight back to the 4th floor. Instead, they went to the room that they had missed. Volok's desk had had a map of the first 3 floors, including all the secret doors, and they had only ever missed one thing, which was the little secret compartment in the Cult of the Kanka Temple. So they went in and they found a copy of the Whispering Reeds, they found the Awaken Portal spell, they found Belcora's journal, and they found a fact file on the Gauntlet. They didn't take the time to read through these things yet, and probably won't for a little while. And the Whispering Reeds itself is very hard to identify, so I don't think that'll come into play anytime soon. But these are great, useful things to find. And then they returned to the fourth floor. They were going to go through that secret door they found. But kind of funnily, the players decided to call it there. I would have, of course, let them go around the corner, start the fight with the little insect aberration things, and then cliffhanger them. But they made a few jokes about being sick of all the cliffhangers, so they called it themselves, which fair enough. We were at times, so I guess I'll take it. But that was it for this session. Again, I'm very sorry about the footage. It's bothered me more than I care to admit that I've lost this footage because it was such a good session. The roleplay was great. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Hopefully, this doesn't happen again for a very long time because while I understand that this is a fine way of doing it, I've got the points across. I like being able to show you guys what's happening, and the roleplay stuff I think is important to how the videos work. So apologies. That's it for today. I'm not going to bother asking for likes and comments because, in my opinion, this video is not up to scratch. So I'll see you in the next one where things will be back to normal and I will have my footage. But for now, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.